Hello and welcome to this explainer. We're about to unpack a truly mind-bending cosmological framework today. It's one that completely flips our traditional understanding of reality entirely on its head. I mean, literally. Forget the old idea of a universe that just passively exists out there in the void. Today we're exploring the concept of a universe that actually designs and optimizes itself. We're going to break down the dense but absolutely fascinating mechanics of how space-time, information, and consciousness might be fundamentally woven together at the very foundation of existence. So if you've ever wondered how the universe actually bootstraps itself into being from absolute zero, well, you're in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the journey. We'll start with the ultimate cosmic question, define a primordial medium known as telesis, demystify infocognitive spacetime, look at the engine of telic recursion, explore global laws versus local creators, and finally, discover how we're living in a completely self-designing universe.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the ultimate cosmic question and the infinite loop of physics.
You know, cosmology is humanity's grand attempt to find the universe's absolute ultimate laws. But there's a massive, glaring logical hurdle we run into almost immediately. How can you explain the laws of physics without using more laws? Think about it for a second. It's a total paradox. Laws don't just magically float around in a vacuum. They have to be defined by the objects and the attributes they act upon. But conversely, objects and attributes can't stand on their own either, right? They absolutely have to be defined by the rules of structure and organization governing them. So even if you somehow find the so-called ultimate laws, you still have to ask, well, what created those laws? Laws need objects to act on, and objects need rules to exist.
The source text captures this fatal flaw of traditional physics so perfectly, it asks, and I'll read this directly, how can a set of laws, objects, and attributes be explained except by invoking another set of laws in the form of an explanatory syntax that would itself demand an explanation and so on ad infinitum? That right there is the ultimate infinite regress. Standard cosmology just gets stuck in an endless loop, constantly passing the cosmic buck to a deeper set of rules forever. No way out.
Let's move to Section 2, telesis, the primordial medium and the solution to the infinite regress.
So to break that infinite loop, we have to find something that comes before laws and objects even exist. In the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, or CTMU for short, this primordial medium is called telesis. It's defined as the infocognitive potential from which time, space, and laws haven't even separately emerged yet. I like to think of telesis as basically unformatted clay, or, a pre-space-time soup of pure, unbounded potential. In this state of zero constraint, there's no separate space or time. There are no separate rules or matter. It's literally the raw, uncarved block of existence from which the rules and the game pieces emerge together, refining each other as they go.
Next up, Section 3, demystifying infocognitive spacetime, bridging information and cognition.
So, the crucial point is, how exactly does reality emerge from that unformatted clay of telesis? Well, when this raw potential bounds itself into a primitive form, it generates something called infocognition. Simply put, this means information that literally processes itself to create perceptual reality. It's analogous to spacetime itself. In this framework, reality isn't just some empty, static room where things just happen to occur. Reality is actually made of self-processing information. Therefore, if you're trying to explain the genesis of reality, you are quite literally seeking the explanation for the genesis of infocognition.
And this abstract idea actually maps beautifully to the physical reality we experience every day. Let's break it down. Information's fundamental job is to locate objects. So, that maps directly to space. Cognition's job is to process that information sequentially. So, that maps directly to time. Space and time aren't just an invisible physical grid that we're blindly walking around in. They're the actual spatial and temporal components of infocognition. They are literally the syntax and the state of reality, fundamentally bound together.
Which brings us to Section 4, the engine, telic recursion, and pulling reality up by its bootstraps.
Okay, if reality is made of this unformatted clay, what is the fundamental engine shaping it into, well, everything? Galaxies, planets, us. How does the universe literally pull itself up by its own bootstraps? The answer here is telic recursion. Telic recursion is this pre-informational process that constantly maximizes a cosmic self-selection parameter called generalized utility. Basically, that's just a fancy way of saying the universe is always seeking its most optimal, stable state to relieve the tension between its rules and its objects. By using continuous homology and feedback loops, reality inherently recalculates and refines itself into brand new infocognitive configurations.
Let's move on and see how this builds in Section 5, Global Laws and Local Creators, the Macro and Micro Stages of Creation.
Now, this epic self-design isn't just happening out in the void all at once. It actually happens simultaneously on two entirely distinct stages. Think of it like a giant puzzle. In the primary stage, reality as a whole, which we can call the global teller or overarching agent, sets the baseline, universal laws, and initial mass energy. Then we have the secondary stage. This is where internal tellers, which are agent-level observer participants, basically meaning you and me, perform material actions and state transitions based on those overarching primary rules.
And here is the thrilling, intensely empowering takeaway from that two-stage setup. Local tellers constantly create the universe. Really, let that sink in for a second. Because the primary global recursion and our secondary local actions are essentially simultaneous, we're not just passive passengers in some pre-programmed, deterministic machine. As internal observer participants, we are actively channeling and actualizing reality. We are the universe, continually refining itself from the inside out.
All right, wrapping up with Section 6, a self-designing universe, our revolutionary cosmological framework. And this brilliantly illustrates the CTMU's unique proposition when you contrast it with standard deterministic physics. Standard recursion relies on invariant laws acting on a completely static void. It's Markovian, meaning it has absolutely no memory. Each step just blindly follows the last, with zero room for optimization or self-design. It's kind of depressing, honestly. But telic recursion, it gives the universe expansive, self-generative freedom. It doesn't just blindly follow the past. It intelligently coordinates events in light of higher-order relationships to optimize its own future.
I absolutely love how the source material describes this. It notes that this process provides reality with a, quote, self-simulative scratchpad on which to compare the aggregate utility of multiple self-configurations for self-optimative purposes. Just picture that in your head. The universe isn't the winding down clock, it's a dynamic, self-simulative scratchpad. It's constantly drafting, comparing, and optimizing its own existence to achieve maximum utility. It's literally a living, thinking structure writing its own code. So, let's tie the whole shebang together. We started with telesis, that pure, unformatted pre-space-time potential. We saw how this raw potential shapes itself into infocognition, where information literally becomes space and cognition becomes time. We discovered that the engine driving this entire system is telic recursion, a mechanism that continuously optimizes reality to relieve stress between syntax and state. And most importantly, we learned that local agents, yes, you and I, are actively participating in this ongoing creation of the cosmos. Which leaves us with one final, deeply profound question to ponder before we go. If you are a local teller actively shaping a self-simulating universe, how will you channel your generalized utility to optimize reality today? Remember, you aren't just in the universe, you are the universe recognizing itself, entirely capable of channeling its self-generative freedom. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the genesis of infocognitive spacetime. Keep optimizing, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.